Glancing over my records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter. A murder in a carriage as it sped through dense London fog in the dead of night. Though the victim and the perpetrator were the only ones inside, there were multiple witnesses to the crime itself. However, none could have imagined at the time that such a seemingly obvious case as this would end in such a horrendous manner. My friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, once said of the incident, "I believe that perhaps that case was indeed the prelude, the beginning of a long concerto that impressive Japanese student and I were to play together."
Amazing. Is this really just a railway station?
Railway station or not, I've never seen such an enormous building before.
And look at all the steam locomotives. This country is incredible.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
So this is the capital of Great Britain.
So, where to?
Oh, hello.
Climb aboard. I'll take you wherever you want to go.
In that case, the Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
My pleasure. I suppose you're visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought so. Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay. And welcome to the centre of the world, Great Britain's mighty capital, London.
Hello, investigators and interlopers. My name is TB Skine, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney. The Great Ace Attorney. Where I just figured I'd let the intro scene play out without too much interruption from me. But, yeah, let's see what poor Sod gets murdered this time around. Because last time it was our friend. This time, hopefully, it's someone we don't know. But yeah, it's been about a week since I recorded the last batch of episodes, so I'm just kind of hoping that I remember the voices I gave to everyone. And if I didn't, hey, well, you get to watch me come up with new ones. Anyway, I am Are we inside the Big Ben? Like, is that with all the clockwork and the giant clock face in the background? Is that what the game is saying, that this office is inside of a clock tower? So, aesthetically, look at this scene. Look how incredibly stupid this looks. If you were to say, oh, this is meant to be historically realistic, how idiotic would this entire scene be? Like, what kind of office is this of a Lord Chief Justice in Britain, in Whitehall of all places? In front of a giant clock face with the gears turning everywhere and like medieval armors standing with swords, and then there's these Roman columns on the left and right, and a giant red carpet and chandeliers, candelabras rather, and this giant throne-like chair. This is like a parody version of what Britain, it's a parody version of Britain. It is in fact, and this I think is kind of not necessarily an explicit point, but a point that you can take away from it, this is a British courtroom as seen through the foreign cultural perspective of someone who has never been to Britain, in exactly the same way that Western media will portray a Japanese shogun's estate, or, in general, just portray, Eastern cultures, or, non-Western cultures. It's exactly the same level of caricature that's going on here. It's exactly the same kind of caricature. And I'm always kind of tickled when I see that kind of caricature turned, like that kind of sort of colonialist caricature, that tradition of it, of like caricature and cultures, turned on the West instead. Like, there's just something wonderful about it. I don't think people don't really do it a lot to Denmark because we're not relevant enough to have a place in the world's imagination. But I mean, South Park tried. They said we were like the Canada of Europe, which is like, no, that's Norway. We're like, I'd say we're more like, we're probably more like the Minnesota of Europe, if any. Like, sort of like everyone here's like, oh, everyone here's very nice. Yes, like it's sort of a place where everyone here's very polite and nice, but everyone's also completely fucking white. But that's beside the point. Where were we? Right, 18th February, 9:21 a.m. British Supreme Court Lord Chief Justice's office. What an incredible place! It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating. This place is breathtaking. It looks like a fortress. There's some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course. But they've only just been built in the few short decades since we opened our borders to the outside world. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? A far cry from the wood and paper most of our buildings are constructed from. Well, it's certainly unfamiliar. But I think there's more to the differences than just construction materials. What is this place again? This is the Lord Chief Justice's office in the Supreme Court of Great Britain. The Lord Chief Justice. We had instructions to report here at this time if circumstances were different. We were supposed to let the Lord Chief Justice know that we had arrived from Japan. But Kazuma can't. No. So instead, we're here in a different capacity. As envoys to report the news of Kazuma-sama's death. Yeah. And having delivered his or her message, an envoy's duty is done. So, we have to return to Japan. If we want to remain here in Great Britain, I have to take Kazuma's place as the law student selected for the study tour. Yes. Which means you need the requisite qualifications as a lawyer. Which is what I've been studying for. Here in Great Britain, it's the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers. So what they're doing right now is they're offering a recap of the previous episode. And this is something that Phoenix Wright Games have retained from their origins, because they were originally Game Boy Advance visual novels, right? And the point and idea of them was that it's sort of like you can pick them up, and you can play them, you can play through like one case or whatever, and then you kind of put them back down, and that's like, okay, at that point you're sort of done with it. But then the way they're structured is so that you can pick it up in like episodic format, and then every single case would open with like a little recap of like, oh yeah, this is the relevant detail you need to know from the last case in order to remember how the story is going. So that's why these two characters are telling each other things that they already know. Here in Great Britain is the Great Lord Justice who appoints lawyers. So that's the second reason why we're here, to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. It is the only way that we'll be able to remain here in London. I hope I'm up to scratch. Is that the Lord Chief Justice? Okay, good morning, sorry for keeping you. I'll come up with a voice once I know what the character design's like. Oh, okay. Okay. Whoa, maybe. I'm just struck by a feeling, guys. I just want to bring it out. Like, it's possible. It may be possible that potentially this guy could be a villainous character. I'm just like, he could be heroic. Like, his character design is not 100% on it, but like, you see eyebrows and eyes like that with like the little cross section in the middle of his face, like where's that level of tension. And he's taller than you, like way taller than you, and he's like, yeah, that could be a villainous character. Oh, I trust you aren't too exhausted after your long voyage from Japan. Huh. It seems I'm 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds late. My apologies. Oh, no. Joe mentioned it. We're never happier than when we're standing around with nothing much to do. How fortunate. No, he needs something more dignified. So, introductions. I'm Male Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. And I feel like a little mouse under an elephant's foot. Come on, Mr. Naruhodo, don't be a mouse. Oh, it's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London, the capital of our glorious British Empire. Yeah, he's a bad guy. He's a villain. Empire. Ah, yes, thank you? I mean, like, again, with the whole glorious British Empire, I feel like probably. So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How do you like London? Help! I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I don't remember a single thing about the city. It's simply splendid, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh? We had a wonderful view of some London streets from the carriage on the way here from the station. Everything is so impressive and grand. I must say, I'm almost at a loss for words. I am glad to hear you like it. The city boasts tramways, piped water and gas, even cables supplying electricity. We spearhead every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor to London is astounded. He could be a good guy still, but the character design is very heavily, it's setting him up either as a villain or as a red herring. Oh yes, astounded is the word. Thanks for saving me there, Sasada-san. And everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor. In Britain? Yes. There's much excitement about the upcoming Great Exhibition we will be hosting here in London. Great Exhibition? Cultural and technological achievements from around the globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. It will be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history, and will make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop. Gosh, I can hardly imagine how magnificent it's going to be. Great Britain's capital city is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world. Even if you do say so yourself. The sun will never set on our great empire. Oh, I don't know about that, Strongheart. Give it, let's see, this is like the 18-somethings, right? Early 1900s. Give it 60 years. Give it 60 years, my friend. Perhaps it is fate that in these progressive times we welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun. Lord Chief Justice, I think you were expecting a student of law for this study tour, weren't you? Absolutely. A Mr. Kazuma Azogi, if my memory serves. That's right. The British government has already been telegraphed a full report on the situation. I understand the young man lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores. That's amazing. The news reached him before we even arrived. My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to yours. Oh, thank you. And you honored this appointment specifically to inform me of the news? Yes. We are here in the capacity of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person. They tell me you Japanese are a people of protocol and courtesy, and I see that it is true. To hear that from the fucking British. And it is with some regret that I must inform you that the death of the young lawyer means this study tour arrangement can no longer proceed. If you would just hear us out, Lord Strongheart. What do you have to say, madam? It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruhodo there would like to make a proposal. Would he now? Well, Mr. Naruhodo. This is it then, the moment of truth. The thing is, Lord Justice, Lord Strongheart, I was wondering if perhaps you would consider allowing the study tour to go ahead? Don't misunderstand me. Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead. But without a lawyer from your country, there's nothing to be done. Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan, I mean. Is there something I don't know? Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country. And that was Mr. Asogi. At least that is what I've been led to understand. Well, the thing is, this really isn't going well at all. I just can't seem to find the right words to say to this man. Mr. Naruhodo, I could ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I gonna say? If there's someone else here from Japan who would be described as a lawyer, it's me. I can do it. Is that so? I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but... No qualifications, you say? And yet you still claim to be a lawyer? I mean, again, it's not like y'all motherfuckers, you, like, the barristers and the lawyers in your country, they were just people who were like, yeah, fuck it, I know the law, why not? Like, that's how the lawyering profession got fucking started. So, like, don't get too haughty-taughty there, Mr. Strongheart. I have acted as a lawyer in court before. Only once, as it happens. And I had Kazuma to help me, and I was the accused. But glossing over the details, I've been spending every spare moment on the journey here to Great Britain studying. I've learned all about British law and court proceedings while I was aboard on the SS Burya. The voyage from Japan was some 50 days, I believe. Not what you might call a full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, you must also complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short a period of time, but I can't just go back to Japan. Kazuma, Mr. Azogi's journey had only just begun. Coming here on this study tour is all he thought about. I have to carry on and do everything he planned to do. I know it must sound like I have an overly inflated opinion of myself, but I would do anything to prove that I have what it takes. Any test you care to set me. Just one chance. That's all I'm asking for. Please. 31 seconds. Sorry? Your opening statement there, Mr. Naruhodo. It was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too protracted. A perfectly judged appeal, I would say. Which is a skill that would stand you in good stead as a lawyer. Oh, thanks. So, you're willing to put those words to trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. Huh? But let me ask you one thing first, sir. Yes? You say you intend to do everything Mr. Asogi planned to do. Are you firmly set on that path? Well, yeah. That's my intention. I see. Am I imagining things? Or did his expression just alter a fraction there all of a sudden? Very well. You have your wish. I'll give you a chance. A test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Really? Yurinosuke may have studied, but I didn't. So, what form will the test take exactly? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So, let's have you defend someone. Huh? Your timing is perfect, in fact. There's an apt trial about to begin later today. No advocate has been appointed for the defense as yet, so this will be welcome news. Today? Straight away? If you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. What could be simpler? How do I get myself into these situations? Yeah, it's a legacy thing, Ryunosuke. It's gonna haunt your family, I'm afraid. Well, I could ask, what sort of trial is it, Lord Strongheart? Yes, good question. I remember. It's a murder trial. A murder? An extremely simple case, I understand. You really can't lose. That's easy to say. But I should mention, just in case, if the defendant is found guilty, he will, of course, be sentenced to capital punishment. Capital punishment? He'll be put to death? Here in Great Britain, murderers are sent to the gallows without exception. Oh, not without exception, Mr. Strongheart. If they have enough money, they're generally just put into house arrest. Presumably, you read that much in your short sea-based introduction to British law. But we can't possibly agree to such a test. We would be toying with a man's life. I am the Lord Chief Justice, and I've decided it's acceptable. But you can't do that, can you? Hey, my villain feelings are like, ticking up a little bit there. There is no need to overcomplicate this. All you have to do is ensure that you don't lose. So the defendant may live or die, depending on how well I perform in court? If I lose, he'll be hanged. Mr. Naruhodo, you've come to me claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to prove you're willing to do a lawyer's job. And you say you intend to see through the will of your compatriot, Mr. Azogi. I would like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen. He's testing my resolve. What's the matter? You've fallen silent. I'm sorry, but time is pressing. The trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. What's it to be? What do I say? Do I agree to this absurd test? Obviously you do. Always forward. All right, then. If I have to give you a decision now, my answer is... I can't do it. I can't get the words out. 15 seconds. Your decision-making needs work if you want to be a lawyer. That was too slow. So, it's as I suspected, is it? Sorry? You have noble intentions, but lack the resolve to see them through. The test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Go and acquire your ticket for passage back to the east tomorrow. This conversation is over. Yes, Lord Strongheart. Thank you for offering me a chance. Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sorry, Mr. Sato, but what could I do? It's all right, I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. But resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. What are you trying to say, madam? I think what Mr. Sasato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at a trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable. And I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, some kind of experiment. A lawyer may fight for his clients in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, the particular day they stand in the dock may be the only chance they have to fight to prove their innocence. No, I was wrong. I'm not qualified to do that job yet. I'm sorry for wasting your precious time, Lord Chief Justice. Wait, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, was there something else? It's approximately 20 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. If you leave immediately, you should still be there in time. But I just said that... I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case has literally no one to advocate for him. What? At this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. The trial will begin without a defense. And if that happens, there's only one possible outcome. He will receive the most severe sentence the judge can pass down. But that's awful! But that is the truth. Why does it have to be like this? Please don't expect an answer to every question. The cold, hard truth of the matter is that there is only one person now with a chance to save this man from a very miserable end. And that is you. I'm really his only hope? So, what do you say now, madam? Me? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. And I agree. But in my estimation, it is purely and simply a matter of resolve. Oh. Our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So, venture into our great city and enjoy yourselves. He's gone. Huh? The Old Bailey. If we're going to do this, Master Naruto, we must leave at once. There's not anything to converse... No, what to do. So, companion characters, basically, if you ever don't know what you need to do, you can talk to them and they'll sort of reiterate, like, what was the last thing that we were told to do? What's the next thing we need to do? Which, again, is a holdover from the legacy of these games as, like, handheld visual novels, where having that little helper character around is like if you've just put the game down and you haven't played for, like, a day or two, and you need a refresher on what the fuck to do, they're there for that. I feel like it's less necessary now on the Switch. Although that still is a handheld system, technically, so I don't know. And also, this was put out on 3DS originally, so, you know. Anyway, 18th February, 9:45 a.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Oh, thank goodness. We're in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. I thought my teeth were going to rattle loose. Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver, and there's a guinea in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Sherlock Holmes stories, and it worked quite perfectly. I'm not sure why you're so pleased. I thought we were going to die, and we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started. Yeah, I suppose there's that. Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said the defendant should be here, but there's no sign of him at all. So this is the Old Bailey. Even there's room for the defendants to wait is grand. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court in Japan. An oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever is about to be sentenced. It feels like only yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed. Yes, whoever the man you're to defend is, I imagine he's feeling very alone at this moment. Top of the morning to you, madam. Sir. Do I really? Oh, God. Oh, no. Okay. Listen. I apologize to every Irish person who sees this. Most British people, not the English, obviously, but most British people, and just, like, the English language itself for what I'm about to do to... What are yous doing following me here? Things are fair desperate, are they? Sorry? Would you look at those expressionless faces? From the east, are yous? We're from Japan, yes. Ah, Japan, is it? Right, say no more. So, how much do you need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I've been there myself, so I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny to your name, and all while in a strange faraway land. Well, actually, we haven't found a place to stay yet, no. 'Tis grand, 'tis grand. Let me start by giving you 1,000 guineas. Say nothing now. 1,000 guineas? Please, Mr. Sasada, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 guineas is enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo. What? 'Tis nothing to me at all. I like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. I've enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Could that much rain even fall in one day? Well, even so, we couldn't possibly accept such a large sum of money. Yak! Oh, that hit me in the eye! Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving ya no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh? To be honest, 'tis a little embarrassing. The trial is about to begin, you see. It's for me, my good self here. I'll be in the dock. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Oh, well, the thing is, don't worry about a thing. All you have to do is stand up there next to me. Nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial is going to start without me having any kind of representation at all. So it was true. The Lord Chief Justice wasn't just making it all up. I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Blustering places, do yous not know who I am? Me, one of London's biggest names. No, sorry, we've only just arrived in the city, you see. Oh, I see. I suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Well, just at the Hyde Park there in the centre of London is another beautiful park. Sorry, a park? What? 'Tis called McGilded Park, full of blossoming flowers in the spring and singing birds and whatnot. I donated it to the city, so I did. An entire park in central London? A city of smiles, that's my vision for London. There's nothing Maximus McGilded wouldn't do for the city of its queer old people. That's amazing. I mean, really extraordinary. I'm gonna bet that he's a liar and he has no money or something like that. Ah, but now they've the gall to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with the London police, I ask you? Well, you're Irish, so, you know, they have a predisposition to hate you. All right, don't pass out. Mr. Naruhodo, perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves while the gentleman catches his breath. Good idea. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a tour from Japan, you see. So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, what was I saying? After saying, you daft idiot. I've given you 1,000 guineas to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This chancer of a fella claims to have more money than the Queen. But if that's true, then why the blazes can you hire the finest lawyer in all of England? Oh, because he did it. That's the only explanation. Well, not at all. Although, it is a little strange, to be honest. Why don't you have a lawyer, I mean? That would be the fault of the Reaper. Sorry? Did you say Reaper? Aye, the Grim Reaper of the Bailey, Lord Barrack Van Zeeks. He's the prosecutor. The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper? When Van Zeeks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. Ah, fuck, I'm losing the accent, goddammit. And to this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. What? So it's reached a desperate situation where there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fella at all. You could say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey. Again, like, Irish people, I'm sorry. It's just the way it's written. I have to. Don't worry. Since that guy's called Barak Fonseeks, I assume I'm gonna be able to deliver an even more horrifying atrocity to his voice, which will hopefully make you forget the horrifying atrocity I've been doing to Mr. McGilded. You must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor, then. Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madam. It's cursed. Cursed? What on earth?
The defendant is summoned, and his counsel. Please make your way into the courtroom. The trial is about to begin.
His counsel? Well, that would be me. Oh, 'tis time. Well then, fella, don't let me down. But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here. I'd made up my mind, so I had... Huh? I decided I have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? But then you made an appearance. A student of law, wouldn't you know? Just no accident, I can assure you of that. Just fate. So don't get cold feet now, please. I'll literally know nothing about the case or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruhodo, well, the man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom, armed with nothing to defend himself. Yeah, something that Kazuma would never have allowed to happen.
Counsel for the defense, what are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you lose your right to stand.
I'll be right there. Well, this should be fun. It's happening then. My first trial in a British court. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because I have no idea how I'm gonna manage this. I'm curious to see what the judge looks like. 18th February, 10 a.m. The Old Bailey Courtroom. Scales, huh? Ooh, oh, that's a lot of witnesses. Yeah. So, this is the highest court in Great Britain. The Old Bailey. The centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? It's so different to the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere almost makes words redundant. Whatever the country, determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. Oh no. I'm sorry, Susato, no. Oh boy. May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes. What? Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. He's a fucking vampire. Oh my god. Okay, yeah. Right, you need a good voice.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen.
Okay, hang on. I need to... Because I'm going to need to do him a lot. Hang on, let me think. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen. It should be deep. Like,
in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session.
something like that.
We're here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I now call upon the counsel for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed.
Okay. So, Fanseeks. I was gonna do German, like, the prosecution is fully prepared. But it almost sort of sounds like I need to do, the prosecution is fully prepared. It sounds like I need to do a Dracula accent. Like, look at him! Look at him! Castlevania-ass motherfucker! Oh, man. Fuck. God damn it. Because, like, on the one hand, I really do want to do German, yeah. Like, the prosecution is fully prepared. I really do want to do German. The prosecution is fully prepared. On the other hand, like, who can resist a good opportunity to do a terrible Dracula accent? And I call it a Dracula accent because, like, it's theoretically supposed to be Transylvanian, right? But, like, it's not. A Dracula accent is never Transylvanian. Fuck it. fuck it. Dracula accent. When else am I gonna do that? When else am I gonna get the chance to do a Dracula voice?
The prosecution is fully prepared.
That must be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld.
Counsel for the defense, you appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English?
Oh, fuck you! Huh? Oh, yes, of course, sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready, and I couldn't be further from ready if I tried.
Those eyes please me, Nipponese. They shroud your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb.
A cold shiver just ran down my spine all the way to the tips of my toes.
Now, Mr. McGilded.
Yes, my lord.
You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You will be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner?
As I've always said, my lord, 'tis a grand thing to give opportunities to the young. Even if the fella's a student from some little island off in the Far East. Is it not the British way to ignore the dangers to yourself and give those less fortunate a fair chance?
The fuck it is! Fuck it's not! No, the fuck it isn't! Charles Dickens wrote novels about how much that isn't the British way.
I'd like to think that acts of chivalry do the great British Empire proud.
Listen to Mr. McGilded. What a fine gentleman London has in him. Did you hear he donated £5,000 to the government the other day?
But that plays, maybe go and play Mr. McGilded Park. Well, it seems as though everyone in the public gallery is firmly behind Mr. McGilded. Well, that's definitely welcome news. And he certainly has a way with words. I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him.
Eloquently put, Mr. McGilded. A most laudable sentiments. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you that you six...
Oh, they're not witnesses, the jury members.
That you 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, my lord. If the task is to send Rogers to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready.
At the manor, his lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish promptly. Naturally, I agree. Oh, any criminals here would soon be wishing they was never set eyes on me.
Yeah, okay. My crimes against the British will be worse than those against the English will be worse than those against the Irish.
I feel a chill.
Okay, so the dude on the left, the guy we just scrolled past, he's got something to do with horses. Did you see that mustache? He's a horse character.
Don't mind me, my dears. I'll just be getting on with my knitting. Must finish these mitts for my grandson. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo, those people are... The jury, yeah. That's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's right. I've only ever read about it. But here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay, this is where I'm not really that well-versed in... Yeah, also, he's got a horseshoe on his collar, so obviously. This is where I'm not really that well-versed in British criminal history, but I do believe that the jurors, like the right to be tried by a jury of your peers, was not like if you were a poor Irishman or something about to be transported to Australia, if I remember correctly, like, you didn't have a jury. It was just a judge who was like, fuck you, go to Australia. But yeah.
But here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. The judge passes sentence according to the law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense.
Yeah, no, again, this is the idealism that the Phoenix Wright series has about the law. Is that that the court system, not that it's uncorruptible or that it's perfect or that there aren't bad actors within it, but that the system itself fundamentally is created for the purposes of ensuring justice. Which is where, like, a dirty leftist like me will sort of come in and say, well, no, the court system exists to protect the state against anyone who would threaten, like, the interests of the state by, for example, like, by breaking the laws that the state passes, and the state derives a lot of its authority and legitimacy from enforcing law. So, like, that's what it's for, and that's not, like, necessarily an evil thing, but it's not about justice, it's about, you know, it's about power politics. But the Phoenix Wright series, and this is the fantasy of the game, is one where the legal system, where the justice system exists to ensure that justice is done, and where justice can be done if people believe in the system, like, and like protect it and defend it and like stand for it, which is a different perspective and a very idealistic one. Not the one that I necessarily 100% disagree with, but just want to bring it up that like that politics underpins the entire series.
So the defendant is ultimately judged from two completely different points of view.
But how exactly do the jurors give their verdict?
That I don't know, but I'm sure it'll become clear as the trial progresses.
Yes.
Prosecutor 1-6. My lord, it's been a number of years since we've seen you here in the courtroom. I thought you'd renounced your fame. I am known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. So, what brings you back? Is there some change of circumstance of which the court should be aware? I leave that to your imagination, my lord.
So, the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years? Why did he have to choose today of all days to make a comeback? Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruhodo.
As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity.
You must be the only ones in here who aren't aware.
The incident took place in the late evening, 3 days past. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks, known in the community as Thrice-Fired Mason.
Sorry? Thrice?
He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible.
Excellent character design on that guy.
The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service on the streets of London at the time. A dagger had been thrusted to the victim's abdomen, is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here is the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard. Thank you, counsel. I shall accept that of the photograph as evidence.
Cool, now we have something to actually examine.
And one further item of evidence. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well. And these are... Good lord! Is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested.
What? Mr. McGilda's gloves had blood on them?
Presumably because he tried to help the guy, you know.
Yes, I will accept these as evidence as well.
How did I get into this?
Let's see. Thrice-Fired Mason, 54. Between 10 and 11 p.m., 15th of February, stabbed once in the abdomen with a knife whilst journeying on an omnibus. Died due to internal hemorrhaging resulting from the trauma. Internal bleeding, huh? Let's see. The knife in his abdomen is clearly visible, but his face is partly obscured from view by an old crooked hat. Oh, is that gonna be a thing? Where, like, maybe it's not actually the right guy in the picture? And then there's a button missing from his coat. That's probably gonna come up. Let's see, what else might come up? I mean, the fact that his face is obscured is gonna come up, for sure. Okay. Right, and there's nothing else.
This is definitely blood, isn't it? Not the most pleasant sight to be confronted with on our first day in London. Well, nothing will come of grumbling now. No. By the way, is Mr. McGilded right-handed? Yes, I believe so. He was toying with a coin in his right hand a little earlier. Pity. If only he'd been left-handed. I think blood on either glove would be fairly incriminating, really. Well, we learned that he is right-handed. That's good information. And nothing on the other glove. No things to inspect.
Okay.
How did I get... Yeah. I'm backed into a corner before I've even started.
Continuing. According to the driver of the Omnibus, there were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time.
Only 2?
Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. The other was the accused, Magnus McGilded. Well, rather damning circumstances, to say the least. Defendant, what say you?
Well, of course, I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilded? To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening. But whenever I'm in the carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it.
Are you claiming to have been asleep?
'Tis the motion of the carriage, my lord. Lilton, so it is. And when I opened my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me. The body of a man I'd never laid eyes on before in my life. Now I ask yous, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fella bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. So the blood got onto the gloves then, after the man had been killed.
Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning.
What? Oh, that's not all of it?
There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. Order!
Oh, maybe I should do it like the dude in Parliament. Order!
When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage. And there were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused. Thank you, Counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we will hear testimony from these witnesses, first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in at once.
So we're starting on the back foot. Oh, I love the character design in this series so much.
Witnesses, your names and occupations.
Beppo. Look at these character designs, motherfucker. Like, and compare and contrast with other video games. Like, just how uniform and linear and non-varied they make their characters for no goddamn good reason. Just all just appealing to the same garbage-ass sense of like, oh, well, they have to be pretty because otherwise they won't sell. Fuck off. Like, look at this. There's character there. You know exactly who this guy is. The dude on the right, like, look at that glare on the motherfucker's face. Like, look at him. Holy shit, he might be the killer. Just based on the character design, like, sometimes that's, like, it's that easy. But, like, look at, and they fit within the same aesthetic, right? Like, even though this guy is a complete cartoon character and the guy over on the right looks so much more serious, they still compellingly fit into the same aesthetic. It's not like you look at them and go, what? They can't possibly be from the same universe. No, they work. And you can have that, like, my name is, well, everyone calls me Pepper. Private Omnibus at the East End.
Rose fair play. I'm a banker in the city.
My name's first. Lady first. I make hats for gents.
lady first. Ladies first. With the detail that the hat he makes, like, presumably that is the hat he's made for himself. Oh, wait, hang on. Surely not. Okay, well, that would be interesting.
I make hats for gents.
Let's begin by confirming these facts. 3 days ago, at the short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witness to the aforementioned incident. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Quite right.
Yes, sir. That's right, sir. Very well, then. Let's proceed to your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw.
I sort of defaulted to him like having a actually a lighter voice, like a little bit higher, more like old man wheezy kind of. Don't know why. It just feels like he kind of would have a slightly higher voice for some reason.
The last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well.
The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside of the bus. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts.
That's right. He stabbed him. I screamed at it. I couldn't help it. As soon as I screamed, I stopped my bus. Then I saw it too.
Interesting.
Unambiguous testimony, I must say.
Exactly, my lord.
These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes.
I'd like to ask a question, if I may.
Yes, Caswell?
Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
Why not?
Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it?
Yes, it's been clearly stated from the outset, yes.
Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of a moving carriage.
How quaint. I'd read that civilization in the Eastern nations was a good century behind our own.
There's the colonialism and the racism.
But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses?
Huh?
Tell me, my Nipponese friend, have you even traveled in an omnibus?
Well, no. We only arrived in London this morning.
No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves. The actual scene of the crime, that is.
What do you mean, the actual scene? How?
A carriage is designed to be moved after all. Presumably, you understand that much.
Yes.
The omnibus in which this bloody crime took place is here today in this very building.
Here? What? The entire carriage?
Bailiff! Bring forth the stricken omnibus.
Well, damn. That's new.
Cool.
So that's an omnibus. Well, the omnibus. I can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing.
As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. 4 passengers seated inside the enclosed cabin and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Every Londoner knows that the best view of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an omnibus. And I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof, allowing a view of the interior from the seats above.
Ah, skylight. Oh!
The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on this omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Well, Castle, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecution's wish.
I love the little wig. Oh, he's cute. He's such an adorable old man character.
Very well, I see no reason why not. This omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence.
I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence? Oh, we're gonna go exploring. Open up!
Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? The scene of a murder. It's horrible.
It's cool! This is so cool! Phoenix Wright games have never done that before. Usually this would be the investigation phase, right?
Ah, that's a poster for the great exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exposition. Oh, the Crystal Tower. It's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. This seat has a handle, it seems. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running. Feeding tubs, tools to repair wheels, blankets, horseshoeing tools. So it's a storage compartment for the coachman to keep his things, it seems. There doesn't seem to be any space for passengers to store their luggage, that's for sure. Well, I don't imagine it would be very convenient for that purpose anyway.
Okay, that's just the same. Oh, this rules. This rules so hard. Okay, what do we have here? Is that also the great exhibition? Okay, fine, whatever. Let's see, there's lamp, there's skylight.
That's quite a large skylight, isn't it? Well, yes, quite large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. And there doesn't appear to be a handle or catch of any description. So I suppose it can't be opened from the inside of the cabin, at least.
That's good information to have. Let's see, windows, anything there?
Niet, there is nothing.
And this is for when I leave again. Well, we don't want to leave. I need to examine the bloodstain, obviously, but you never know where the clues are going to be. Anyway, bloodstain.
That's blood that's soaked into the seat. The victim's, obviously. Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab somebody in full view of other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark. And there was a lamp on in here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight.
Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. Okay.
Have you seen enough? Let's step back outside then.
Yes, because we need to have a look on the actual thing itself. What do we got here? Lamps. Tackle for the horse. Can we check the underside? No? Okay. Not much of anything. Phoenix Wright on Omnibus. Oh, cute. That's a cute little reference. Anyway, let's have a look at the top. So that's where the coachman sits. You can see the butt print.
So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. Oh, you must have a wonderful view of London streets from up here.
So people sit all the way up here on bitter winter nights with the cold air rushing past them? And they have to pay money to do so?
Oh, I can't imagine how cold it must feel.
That just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in the freezing cold as punishment?
Perhaps that is the real price you pay to stay out late.
Right, but what about here?
So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. Oh, you must have a wonderful...
Okay. Oh, sorry. Wait a minute. Okay, let's see. Skylight, then. Well, you can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure.
Yes, and there's a lamp in there in the enclosed cabin. so I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. That's not good for us.
Right, but the thing that I note is that if you're sitting here, you can only see one row of seats. And if you're sitting here, you can only see the back row of seats. So... And there's a latch, too. So it can be opened from the outside, and passengers have a limited view based on where they're sitting. Okay. I wonder if that's going to be relevant. Outside of that, it seems... This thing has nothing left to really offer for investigation. Okay, good to know.
Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. I could help myself a lot by giving that Omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here.
Let us continue with proceedings, then. Your cross-examination, Counsel? Huh. Pray don't expect this Nipponese straight to understand the intricacies of a British court's cross-examination rights.
All right, my first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Ryunosuke. Focus.
Ooh, the backdrops. Right, well, we'll just press everything.
Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, sir. Yes. So cold it was freezing, in fact.
And you had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct?
Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus, of course. No. And there were no other passengers when the incident took place. No one alighted, for example. You're quite right with that, sir. No other passengers like that. None.
So, nobody fled the scene of the crime then?
But I have to say, the boss insists on it running. He does every day. The last bus of the day. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, so sorry, Si.
What do you mean by that?
Well, with it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the run, you say? Well, yes, I spent that much pop on the way home, just trying to warm up again.
Miserable.
Victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other in the inside of the bus.
Next to each other.
Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts.
Next to each other. Interesting, okay.
And you saw them through the skylight of the roof of the carriage?
Well, that's right. When you sit up top deck, the window's right there at your feet. There was a lamp on the inside, and so I had a pretty good view. The two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. But there's not a shred of my doubt that it was Mr. McGilded.
How can you be so sure?
Well, how can I put it politely? Mr. McGilded is a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else.
Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased, Mr. Mason, and Mr. McGilded. There is no room for doubt here.
I really wish there was.
Okay.
You actually saw the exact moment it happened?
Didn't I already testify to that? Or are fair dinkum hard-working city bankers not considered trustworthy these days?
Hard-working city bankers. Trustworthy, you say? Oh, my friend. I mean, the Great Depression technically hasn't happened yet, I suppose, but, like, even before that. And before 2008. And before the fucking dot-com bubble of the 90s. And before all... Oh, my God. Okay, yeah, anyway, moving on.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. This is no good. I've really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell me what is... Malo! Oh, juror number 3. What's the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich. Never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be. Every one of them. I mean, he's not wrong. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter, anyway.
That is precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it's my duty to set a good example to my fellow jurors.
What is happening here? Let me see. Ah, yes. It seems that's how the members of the jury give their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. A white for innocent and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their mind about the case, one by one, they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice, as we saw a moment ago.
How the fuck does that work? Like, with 19th century technology, how do you make that work?
So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our very best to make sure that doesn't happen.
Now I'm even more worried than I was before.
Very well, the court acknowledges the change in the jury's status. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination.
This is a nightmare!
Into his guts, huh? Let me just check the... Yep. Okay.
That's right. He stabbed him. I screamed. I did. I couldn't help it.
He stabbed him, you say? And you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you?
Yeah, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats. I remember seeing the little gent sit next to the fellow that was stabbed. I've been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absentmindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly, that huge great knife.
A grim sight indeed.
Ah, well, that didn't help me at all. The jury looked like they were even more convinced my client did it than they were before.
He must be a farrier or something, that horseshoe guy.
Well, that appears to have made everyone even more dubious that Mr. McGilda is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions.
Mr. Forst,
Oh, yes, sir.
is this the knife you saw?
Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. That's the very one, sir. Is that...
Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly, like a stick through the heart.
They're going hard on the vampire shit here.
Well, that is a blade of considerable size, counsel.
It is. And furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar.
Oh, please, no.
M for Magnus, perhaps. Or McGilted. Possibly. Take your pick. It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
That's such a weak objection. Like, why did they tell the voice actor to do it like that? But there are M's everywhere. Like Mason.
Objection!
Oh, he's got a good objection there. And of course, he's got an American accent canonically. Fuck that, though.
This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, counsel.
The murder weapon has been entered into the court record. Good, let's examine it. Oh, she's about to render her verdict as well, is she? Can we draw it?
That part, it's a sheath, isn't it? Are you all right, Mr. Naruhodo?
Huh? Oh, sorry. Yes, I just don't really like blades.
Oh. Those don't seem like the words of a man with a large katana slung from his waist.
Well, that's not a blade. That's Kazuma's soul. Anyway, there's no sense in delaying it. Let's see what the blade looks like. Ah, bloodied. Righto. Where's that M? Oh, there it is. That's a big M. That's an M right there. That sure is an M. That looks a lot like blood.
It surely is blood. The victim's.
An Englishman's blood looks a lot like a Japanese man's blood.
Did you think it wouldn't?
Sorry, it's just that we've only just arrived here in Great Britain. I'm finding it a little hard to adjust.
Yes, I do understand.
An ornate letter M. Undeniably Mr. Magnus McGilded's initial.
And it's beautifully gilded, too. It must be very valuable, I should think.
Ah!
What is it?
Look at this M. If you turn it upside down, it becomes a W. This could change everything.
A W?
Yes, this is one of those, turnabout cases, I'm sure of it.
I'm afraid I don't know at all, but what I am sure of is that this is an M.
Oh, well, that idea was quickly quashed. Yeah, it's the ligature. Like, the little... Like, this wouldn't make sense as a W. Because that there is clearly the beginning of the letter, right? Like, that's what you do at the beginning of the stroke. And then that is the thing that you use to connect up to the next series of letters. But you can't do that if it's... let's try and get this thing to upside down. Like, you can't connect that in a cursive script to the next letter, so... Okay, well... That didn't give us much.
My lord, if you'll forgive the interruption.
Oh, juror number 2. Go on.
Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths.
Wait, what are you about to...
Dispose of the rubbish.
Oh, this is gonna get worse before it gets better. No!
I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion.
Of course, like, there's no peril here. It's like there's actually no game mechanic tied to this. At least, like, typically in Phoenix Wright games, these little things, like these ticking time bombs, it's meant to heighten the tension on the characters. It's meant to heighten the tension of the story, but it's not like, oh shit, I have to act fast or else. In terms of, like, the mechanics. It's not like if a boss in a Souls game or whatever starts if a boss in a Final Fantasy game starts doing a countdown and you just know at the end of the countdown a big attack is gonna come and you have to be ready for it. No. This is a visual novel, fortunately, but it works. Like, as a narrative device, it's like heart pumping.
That's 4 out of 6 jury members who've proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left.
Oh, we've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, it makes the situation worse.
Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark.
I suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly.
You mustn't give up hope that we'll uncover something that'll give us a way to fight back.
But... Alright, I'll keep trying. I can't give up. I just need to keep calm and listen to what the witnesses' statements again. Mm-hmm. The scream, huh? So he heard... Alright. So when it happened, the only 2 people in the enclosed cabin area were the victim and the defendant. And so help me, 3 whole people witnessed the man I'm trying to defend do the deed.
I don't like to be pessimistic, but we do seem to be in a rather difficult situation here.
What am I supposed to do to think here? Is Mr. McGilded really innocent? Or could it be
before we jump to conclusions, our first task should be to gather information.
Yeah. And I need to go... I didn't press the last statement, so I need to go and do that.
What exactly did you see?
Well, sir, that would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed to the floor, he was.
Oh, was he now? And by the passenger, obviously, you're referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker.
The passenger had his knife in his hand, like this.
By the other passenger, obviously, you're referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded.
Plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly.
What? Well, that's a contradiction in terms, and a massive one, too. Because the people on the roof say that they saw the man get stabbed. And then our hat maker screams, and then the bus driver stops because he hears the scream, and then he says that he saw the stabbing happen. So,
My lord, I wish to speak.
Yes, you're a Bethal. Do I take it that you too?
As the master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of a murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse is bolted as to sight.
No, please, just keep an open mind.
Gee up, Silver Blaze, the finish is in sight. Beppo's a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says.
Thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir.
this is too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agreed to condemn this man. So we're banking on the little old lady, huh? Madam Juror number 6.
Yes, dear. What can I do for you?
You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand.
Oh, yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know.
Then, pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning?
Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' face, as he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life.
He's always doing wonderful things for the city.
That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely.
Mother, may we go to the McGilded Public Library later and borrow some more books?
Okay, so he does have money. He's not just a...
How many Londoners lived with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know? What kind of man Magnus McGilded really is?
What kind of man is he?
The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly.
But where did all that wealth come from?
Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls.
What? Did you actually fucking call him a Shylock? Am I gonna have to talk about fucking Merchant of Venice? Oh my god. Okay. Fine.
Stand the crows!
McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. Then the default, he takes possession of everything they own. He is a vulture that preys on the weak.
I've never heard mention of that before.
Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madam.
So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service?
You're not saying that...
The victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing but his name, save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed, the final repayment date for his debts. Or was the final repayment? Good gracious. The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a shilling with which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him. His life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded.
Okay. So, the word has become a colloquialism, Shylock, for a moneylender. Right? But it's not a noun. It's a name. It is the name of a Venetian Jewish moneylender in the Shakespeare play Merchant of Venice. And Shylock is the villain of the story. And the play itself is like just like the trope and the stereotype of the Jewish moneylender, the greedy Jew who like prizes money from his victims, is very much in evidence in that particular play, because that play revolves around a couple of Venetian gentlemen who are trying to get out of a good deal of money that they owe to Shylock, who, being kind of, I mean, in retrospect, very justifiably pissed off at all the Christians who are being dickheads to Jews all the time forever, demands repayment, and if they cannot give him the money, then he wants his repayment in flesh. This is where the phrase "a pound of flesh" comes from. When, like, from extracting an extortionate price from someone is you're taking a pound of flesh from them. That's from this play, and it's like, so the word itself, when you call someone a Shylock, you are likening them to an anti-Semitic stereotype. Which is why I reacted rather negatively to the word, is because like it has a troubled history of like connecting Jews to like, extortionate money lending and like usury and greediness and like being these dark figures that control the finances of the world, which is still an anti-Semitic white supremacist conspiracy theory that you hear all the fucking time. Like, oh, Jews control the media, Jews control, like that shit. It's that shit. It's that exact same thing. The lineage of that goes right up through the Merchant of Venice, or rather, it comes from the Merchant of Venice. It's part of that same continuum of anti-Semitism in European history. And so, like, I react negatively to anyone who uses the term. I have to, like, in good faith, I will assume that the writers were like, oh, it's just a term that means greedy moneylender, and it's not, like, there's nothing more to it. Like, they don't know necessarily the history, but I just want to point out that for anyone who may be watching this video, try not to use that word. Like, just say greedy moneylender. Like, just use any other word than the one that's connected to, like, a long history of anti-Semitic stereotypes. Just don't use that one, okay? Preferably. Anyway.
I don't believe it. If I might add something briefly.
Mrs. Sato?
You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded. But where's the evidence to support your claim?
Oh, is he about to drink wine? He's about to drink wine. Yeah!
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in a court of law. Ah, there it is, Lord Van Zeek's hallowed chalice.
How can this be considered acceptable?
But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage. but I didn't expect to experience it myself.
As judicial assistant to the defense, I'm simply doing my job.
But a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside.
Oh.
Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. The East isn't enigmatic, it's just another bunch of countries.
The marvelous toast, counsel. I would gladly accept this new evidence.
The debtor's ledger has been entered into the court record.
Uh-huh. Yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum.
This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry.
Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside?
Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder...
I assure you will not find Mr. Sholmes' name inside.
Well, let's see what we find. Yeah, I'm curious. 'Cause I have a suspicion.
Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it?
Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Yeah, oh, really, you think?
Oh, goodness.
What is it?
Look at this. Do you see that name here? Bruce Fairplay.
Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Yeah.
Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this very moment.
Oh, yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name here? He borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching.
It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information.
Well, now. Isn't that interesting? Okay, it's just the same. Well, isn't that fascinating? Have we found someone with a motive to frame our defendant? Have we? Not that I particularly enjoy defending greedy capitalists, but, you know, everyone has a right to a good defense. And the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense.
Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes.
Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accused.
And it's such a pretty little part, too. What a scoundrel! Still, maybe it's all for the best.
Wait a minute!
I don't stand for nonsense.
Well, game over, everyone. We lose. That was it. The last juror's decision.
According to this Encyclopedia of British Law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here.
The final verdict. It's over then.
Oh. There's a footnote, though.
A footnote?
However, the defense...
All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case.
Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision.
According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections.
Mr. Sato, just tell me one thing.
Oh, yes?
You were in the middle of saying something before? The footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law, however, the defense. What did it say next?
Oh, yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. Then the footnote says, however, the defense... has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point.
Then that's what we do.
Summation examination?
Objection!
A summation examination. From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected?
Ah,
Judging from the binding, I would say that that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten, and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck.
oh.
What even is it, Miss Sasato? This so-called summation examination?
Oh, one moment, I'll read about it.
You would demand the right to procedure before you even understand what it entails. Huh, typical Nipponese.
There's the racism.
All right, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that this procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury.
To do what exactly?
Well, appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse the decisions. And it says here that, if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed.
Make them reverse their decisions? Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. But that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really, so it rather fell out of use.
I wonder why.
Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age.
Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure being actually formally revoked.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Obviously we go for it.
A summation examination. Our last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out, or admit defeat?
Good question, Naruhodo.
And if you want the answer to that question, you're going to have to wait for the next episode, because this one is running a little bit long. So, yeah, if you've enjoyed hanging out in the world of the Great Ace Attorney with me, and if you've enjoyed my terrible, terrible voices, seriously, if you're Irish, I'm sorry, you can hit the like, comment, and subscribe buttons down below. And if you want to see more Great Ace Attorney right now, then there's an outside chance that some might actually be available for you if you are a member on the channel. I tend to upload these episodes in like chunks and bunches, and there might be some available in early access if you are a member of the channel. So, you know, if you want that, it's there for you. I also have a Patreon, a merchandise store, and a tip jar. You can use them if you want to. It helps me with my rent and stuff, but you absolutely do not have to, and if you're not in a position to be able to, please don't worry about it. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to wear a mask, wash your hands, and take whatever goddamn vaccines we're gonna need to end this frickin' self-isolation and pandemic. And try to act with solidarity towards those who are worse off than yourself.